You can access the entire episode now on our website, forbiddenknowledge.news, Rokfin, Rumble, and all podcast platforms. I'd love to get your insights into the possibilities that not only Graham has come up with, but many independent researchers, independent archaeologists that have come to the conclusion that there was possibly a highly advanced global civilization that was not only present in the Middle East and Africa and the areas most commonly discussed when we're talking about the cradle of civilization, but possibly a global maritime culture that had great knowledge of travel and traveling over the seas and oceans, and possibly had not what we consider the advanced technology of modern times, but a different kind of advanced knowledge and something more probably energetically and consciousness based. What do you think about that?
That's a big question you just asked me. I have boiled it down to epochs, and we've had a number of scientists on the program who now believe that there have been geological earth changes, and these are so important to understand because they are basically wiping out the races, the civilizations on the planet when these geological changes happen. Now, what the thinking is that there have been up to 5 different epochs. These are different civilizations that have rose, developed a science, technology, and then were collapsed either through geological changes or through self-destruction. What Graham and a lot of other people who are working from his narrative are saying is that the most recent epoch before us ended 9,500 BC, which is 12,500 years ago. Our current science, when we ask them to look for these clues, are looking for technology like our own. If you follow the yugas, the Hindu yugas, Treta Yuga is the previous civilization, and these people were not technologically advanced. They were physiologically advanced than us, and so they were able to use their brains and were telepathic. They had advanced technology, but it wasn't in the form of lasers and things like that. They were using earth energetics. There's a term that we use now when we talk about pyramids. There's a pyramid science. It's called telluric energy. These are energetics that bubble up from the core of the earth, and they pass through various levels of the mantle until they erupt on the surface of the planet, and they're burst. We don't see them, but our ancestors understood about subtle energy. And so in the last, and this is pretty radical, in the last 6 months, a number of scientists, most notably Malenga and Felici, 2 engineers, used a satellite to scan the Khufu pyramid and discovered that it's an actual mechanism. What they have found is that there are canals, rooms, tunnels, and what looks like an intricate machine that drove some form of energy producing equivalent to electricity. We don't know exactly what it is. And for years, Egyptologists have been saying, oh, this is, a tomb. Well, it's not a tomb. These are little bits of information that are coming to us, and we're never going to see like a big engine, like a big power plant from the earlier epoch. We're going to see pyramids. There's a pyramid science that I write about that is now coming to the forefront. Subtle energy, telepathy, sound energy, acoustical energy, and geomagnetic energy, or telluric fields. So that's the signature of the previous civilization. that Graham is at the cusp of understanding.
Mm-hmm.
He's looking at earlier cultures in his newest book, America Before, in Amazon and in southern South America. And these people were, by our means, they are very simple. But that's really a misnomer. They're not intellectually simple. They're not physiologically simple. They're much more advanced than we are. And we just don't grasp or haven't grasped their society, how it evolved, their civic ways of living, how their science developed. But we can get hints of it with the Egyptians. We can get hints of it with the Maya, and perhaps the Chinese too. Now, one thing that I've discovered in my interactions with the Maya is that the people we call the Maya right now were not the original people that landed in Mexico. They are the descendants of a very advanced people that migrated from places like Lemuria or Mu in the Pacific before it collapsed, Europe, China, and parts of former continent in the Atlantic known as Atlantis. And this was a very highly evolved culture. The guesstimate is that they settled in Yucatan and in Central America around 28,000 years ago. But there's also new evidence by Dr. Mark Carlotto, who's a image specialist, who believed that there was an Earth shift and that they were part of the earlier epoch, which begins approximately 130,000 years ago. So when I throw those numbers out, people are like, "Oh, you're crazy. What are you talking about?" But the problem is that we're living in a paradigm that's restrictive, that doesn't allow us to consider any earlier dates without, hemming and hawing. We have to stretch our minds. And you can't use dating systems like carbon-14 anymore, because the maximum date age that a carbon-dated sample will reach is 50,000 years. So you have to use other forms of dating to begin looking at pre-dynastic Egyptians, pre-Maya, and some of these early cultures that are around the world that we get bits and pieces of.
How far back do you think this version of humanity, Homo sapiens sapien, goes? I've had plenty of differing thoughts and opinions on this coming through the show, and I'd love to get your insights into it. Many believe that at some point we had a massive jump in our physiology, our biology, our consciousness abilities, that humanity underwent a rapid change in a very short amount of time. And if that's so, what is this based on? Is this based on a visitation? Did we start eating magic mushrooms? Did we get some kind of download or spiritual contact? What are your thoughts on that?
If you follow the work of Michael Cremo in his book, Forbidden Archaeology, he has a section on Homo sapiens sapien, which is the modern human. That's our physiology. That's our skeletal status right now. Homo sapien sapien, the human, upright, walking human. In his book, Forbidden Archaeology, he reveals a skeleton of a Homo sapiens sapien that is over 1 million years old.
Right, yeah, I've spoken with him before about this.
Modern human beings. Now, if you follow the traditions of the sacred science that Sri Yukteswar developed as part of the Yugas, which is a cyclical system, they believe that Homo sapiens sapiens go back as far as 50 million years.